right, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah,
I've
dude.
never been on a podcast, so
That's what's cool. It's like a lot of people haven't been on a podcast before, and I'll give them the opportunity to. And everybody's got like little nuggets that they can share with the world, and
for sure.
everybody's got a story, even if they don't think it's a cool one. I got my buddy that runs the Wild Chaos podcast. He says the same thing as me every time. It's like you talk to someone and they're like, well, "I don't have a story," and then you start talking, and you're like, "What the heck, dude? You
Yeah.
don't think you have a story?" But I guess if that's like all you've lived, that's all you know. So
Yeah.
but yeah, dude. So yeah, it's funny how I think I met a lot of people for the first time that Halloween, that we were like trick or treating and stuff. But I was just blasted drunk, so I don't remember too much of it. But unfortunately, that was the first time I think we met. And then
Is that when you had the orange suspenders on and the bow tie?
no, I wasn't drunk on that one.
Oh, okay. Different
No,
Halloween.
I did a fire in the front yard.
Oh,
I
that's
think, and
right.
then I was just
Yeah.
going back and forth to your fire, and
Yeah.
I was just drinking Coors Light, and yeah, that was rough. But yeah, it's funny now. Now you go in my mouth because you're my dentist.
Did it honestly? Some of the people that I am like closest friends with now, I am friends because they were my patient first.
Oh, really?
Like it's an astounding number of people that I'm friends with that I see as patients.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's one way to get to know someone, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you always think you were gonna be a dentist?
I had kind of a weird foray into dentistry. I had really, really jacked up teeth. Everything was crooked. I had a really bad overbite, like just buck teeth. I could have eaten watermelon through a barbed wire fence. We moved. I'm from Oklahoma originally, but when we moved to Montana, we went to an orthodontist that was like 2.5 hours from us, and he put this appliance in my mouth that like holds your jaw forward and lets it works really well with boys and girls, but when you can get boys when they're around 10 to 11, when they hit that testosterone growth spurt in their skeletal structure, it really helps like use their own growth to modify the jaw placement. And so that really helped a lot. So I did that for a year, and then I had braces for a year when we moved to Nevada, and I just liked how my teeth looked and I was intrigued by it. And then as time went on, I would go with my siblings. They ended up with braces too. Actually, all four of us did. And that's kind of what piqued my interest. I thought I wanted to be an orthodontist when I first started. And then as time went on, I started shadowing. You shadow a lot of people when you're in college. Actually, I started in high school with a family friend of ours that let me come into his office. And he was actually kind of an old school guy that did his own gold work in his lab below his office, and he would do these full mouth rehabilitation cases with gold. It was absolutely absurd, like the amount of work that goes into it. He would wax up all of the restorations by hand and then cast them in gold and then cement them into the mouth and basically put people's mouths back together with gold.
Jeez.
Yeah, and that's kind of a lost art for sure, but I kind of a couple times after shadowing was like, I don't think I want to do this. And then the orthodontic side, as I started learning about general practice versus specializing, when you get to dental school, if you're interested in specializing, you really need to maintain a high GPA. You need to be in the top 5 to 10%, maybe 15% of your class, depending on what specialty you go to. And I just honestly got my shit rocked. When I got to school, I really struggled the first year. Actually, that was when I started really getting into working out a lot, and I was in a calorie deficit in the first semester of my dental school, and I was working out after school every day. I was only taking in like 1,800 calories, 1,700 calories a day, and I should not have been doing that. I got put on academic probation after my first semester because I got a D in a class that was like 8 credit hours, and so anyway, long story short, I did not maintain the interest or the class standing to specialize. Towards the end of it, I actually thought maybe I would want to do attempt getting into oral surgery residency. I was kind of getting a little disenfranchised with how the clinic at my dental school was ran, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to just like crank out fillings every day for the rest of my life. And they really don't instruct you a lot on anything past basic dental work in school. So for a while, I entertained that idea and ended up doing a general practice residency at a hospital. And it was a big level 1 trauma center in Nebraska, which was cool. I worked at the same hospital as my wife at the time and did that for a year, learned a lot. So that's kind of like the dental background.
Yeah.
I never really strayed from about 16 years old on. It's kind of what I assumed I was going to do. My dad didn't want me to be in law enforcement, and he just finished a 35-year career. But it's kind of funny when we were talking about law enforcement. He's like, I don't want you to be a cop. And I called him a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know if you realize this, but cops and dentists are in the same group as opposed to medical doctors and firefighters. Like, everybody loves doctors and firefighters, and they hate dentists and they hate cops. And I was like, I just picked the same route, just a different, longer path towards being hated by the general public.
Jeez. Yeah, that's crazy, man. So let's go all the way back. Then you're from Oklahoma then is where you grew up?
Yeah, we left there when I was 10. Those are kind of where I really consider my roots to be. Like, all of my extended family's there.
In Oklahoma?
Yeah.
What is there in Oklahoma, man? I feel like there's not much there. I don't know much about it, but it feels like it's just a big farming state. I don't know.
There's a lot of agriculture. Oklahoma is very interesting in that the entire eastern half of the state is all Native American land. And so it was actually never supposed to be settled. As far as I'm concerned, if there's history nerds, I'll be corrected. But essentially, that was going to be the Indian territories when all of the civilized tribes, the 5 tribes, were moved from Georgia and Alabama on the Trail of Tears. They were going to go to Oklahoma, and that was going to be where they lived. And then we just gave the land away as time went on to settlers. That's why it's called the Sooner State, because they would do these land runs, and basically people could line up at a starting point and go stake a claim of land, and then these Sooners were the people that would sneak out beforehand and stake claims where they wanted their house to be behind, like, before the race started. So Oklahoma it's got a bunch of different, like, geographical biomes. I would say, like, southwest Oklahoma is where the Wichita Mountains are. It looks like it did in the 1800s. There's elk there. There's a small herd of elk. They do have buffalo. The northeast side has a lot of red dirt, kind of like Georgia, like when people talk about red dirt. But red dirt music is actually from Oklahoma. So, like, a lot of those red dirt bands are from Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's where that started. There's a big Army base down in Lawton. That's where everybody that learns field artillery, they go down there to Lawton to learn to shoot the howitzers.
Right on. So is your whole family then, they still down there?
Everybody but my immediate family. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You guys ever go back?
Yeah, we go a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma still lives there. My grandpa passed away this last year, and she still lives on the big. They have, I think it's 40 acres of farmland that they still have. Big old barn behind it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What's there to do? What did you do as a kid there, living in Oklahoma?
My dad rodeoed, so we had horses, roping horses. We kind of grew up outside the city limits, and everything was cowboys and Indians and no shoes, and just we were constantly outside. So we were homeschooled, and we'd finish our schoolwork and play outside. We were never inside at all.
How'd you like the homeschooling back then? Because I think homeschooling back in, like, what was that? Probably the 90s. Then we're about the same age, right? So that was actually, like, different than homeschooling now, but. How did you like it growing up?
I think the homeschooling aspect of it was stellar. I feel really fortunate. My mom actually has a animal science degree, so she's a huge science nerd. Spent a lot of time and a lot of energy pouring herself into our education and selecting. There was already, like, different curriculums that you can pick from, and she would always just kind of pick and choose. And, like, she would like the science from this one, or she'd like the reading and math from this one, and so she just kind of put it all together as time went by. We had a homeschool co-op every Friday that we'd go to hang out with other kids and stuff. And those were that was our friend group growing up, as people that we homeschooled with.
Oh, that's cool. Did you do that all through? When you guys moved to?
I never went to public school.
Dang, and you seem like you're all right and you're normal. You don't seem like you're a weirdo. No. What's up with that?
I think actually, I have this conversation a lot because in the dental office, I have no choice but to be. I'm an extrovert by nature, but I have no choice but to be able to converse with people. I You can really get into the weeds about socialization of children and where we learn like peer to peer versus peers and our parents, and like where that tribe comes that really helps us like become who we are. I actually think that homeschoolers as a whole are probably better suited as adults by the time they get to adulthood, as the vast majority of them, than a lot of public school kids are. One of the funny things is when we were younger, uh, when we would move to a new spot, we'd always get involved in church. We'd go over to somebody's house for dinner, and we would sit at the kitchen table after dinner, hanging out and talking with the adults at the house that we're at, and their kids would be off playing on their phones, or just sitting on the couch, nothing to say, and so that became kind of like a running joke at our family was, oh, the homeschoolers don't know how to interact. And I think that it's a pretty small group of people that have gotten a really bad rap.
Yeah.
For homeschooling.
Yeah, I was just listening to the Wild Chaos one too, and he interviewed his daughter, and she's been homeschooled for like last 6 years or something. I think she's a senior now, but yeah, that's what she was saying too, is that she can like actually converse with other adults and carry on a conversation where the public school kids like they can't do these like social. It's like they don't have the social cues now.
Yeah, it really kind of makes people, I think you kind of have to look inward a little bit and go, where do we expect um, the term socialization to come from? You expecting somebody else to do it for you? Like, where does that responsibility lie? And I think that homeschoolers, as a general rule, like kind of have that like rugged individualist mentality that like nobody else is going to do it for us, so therefore we have to prepare our kids for the world. So I think that's kind of where that comes from, is because there's so much responsibility that's just innately on that family unit that really helps push that. And that's not saying that there's public school kids that can't like the vast majority of successful people in this world went to public school, maybe private school. And so I think that because maybe homeschooling is not the norm, it's becoming much more so these days. But
Especially after COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Everybody's like, we're doing it already, so why send them back?
Well, I think what did it for us, we pulled our kids and did homeschool, and then they went back to public school this year, but we're pulling them again next year. They've already got enrolled into like a public charter school. But it's like a hybrid I don't know. It's like, I don't even know exactly what it is, but I pulled them out of public school because they went back this year and they're just jerks. But
your kids were?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's just around like oh man, the other kids that you're around them with, you're like, you want them to socialize with these kids? These kids are freaking jerks. Why would I want my kids to be socializing with them? But I think what did it for us too is like during COVID, where like they would get their assignments done in 2 hours. What do you do in the rest of your 6 hours of the day?
Yeah. Why do you have homework?
Yeah.
That's like the biggest thing for me. I if there was a bullet I dodged being homeschooled, it was I felt so bad for my friends. They'd be like, I can't hang out this weekend because I have homework to do. And I'm like, why, dude? Like, you're in school 5 days a week.
Yeah.
For 8 hours a day. Like, what?
And it's just they're teaching you like so much stuff you really don't even need. Like,
and not teaching you the stuff that you do need.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody knows how to do their taxes. Nobody even knows what taxes are. Or who the hell is this FICA guy? You know? Why is he taking all my money?
Why is he taking my money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
I agree.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I think there is a big shift from the public school to the homeschool. Like, and I even went down a rabbit hole the other day, and I went to the almighty ChatGPT, and I was like, which kids are more successful nowadays, the public school kids or the private or the homeschool ones? And they're like, well, like you said, like there's outliers in both, but it seems like more people are wanting to actually hire the homeschool kids because they can think by themselves. They can actually problem solve better.
Yeah.
So they're like looking at these things more than just a high school diploma or whatever, because you can still get your high school stuff, but it's not like
I got a GED, so I can get a scholarship.
Yeah. So, but their critical thinking skills are completely different.
Yeah, I feel like in the education system, there's so much focus on taking tests and performing on tests. And that's where, when I got to college, I really feel like I struggled with test taking. Like, I'm trying to learn all of this information like I did in high school and in middle school. And I can understand these concepts, but if you're asking me like, a multiple choice question and I have to pick the one thing, or fill in the blanks on these standardized exams that I took. It's like that was not my strong suit, and like I can still nerd out and talk about photosynthesis from my biology degree because I learned it, but I did not like taking tests, and dental school was even worse.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're just teaching you to cram all this information so that you can pass your test, and then like the retention after it, you have to
like
just
dump.
Yeah,
Dump it.
you're just learning so that you can take a test, but it's not actually like the retention part of it is out of there.
Yeah.
So after what made you guys leave Oklahoma then?
My dad was in law enforcement with Oklahoma City Police Department for a long time. He was a patrol officer and then school resource officer, and then went to the detective unit for child abuse and sex crimes. So he was in that for quite a while.
I hear that unit like really messes with people's mind. They can only be in that unit for like a couple years.
Yeah, he would say that his moments where like it made it worth it were just seeing horrible people break down when they realized how deep they were. You're like, you're done. You're going to prison.
Yeah.
And so that brought about, some peace from it, but you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
He ended up going to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, so as a detective, and assigned to the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana. That's how we left. So we moved literally like a 3-day straight drive from Oklahoma. I was 10. I have 3 younger siblings. The youngest was 4 months old, something like that, 4 or 5 months old. And we just trooped across the freaking country and moved just south of the Canadian border, and lived on the Indian reservation for 3 months, trying to buy a house. We didn't know how long we were going to be there. And it was kind of funny. My dad we moved up there, and then he got sent to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy in Georgia, and for 3 months. And so we lived on the res, and my dad flew out, and then it was just the 5 of us hanging out. And then my mom bought us a house and moved us off the res. We were renting in the government housing section for people that are working up there, but
yeah,
it was cool. Like the homeschooling aspect and growing up out west was awesome because literally like the American history is right outside your door. We would go to, we're big like American West nerds. And so we'd go to where the Marias and Two Medicine River split, and Lewis and Clark had to figure out which way they were going to go. And, everything we did was school as far as the history stuff goes.
Yeah, but you're actually hands-on learning real stuff.
Yeah. We went to Pompey's Pillar, which is a landmark from the Lewis and Clark Trail. I saw the names carved in the rocks, and it's like, dude, we can actually go out here and touch this. It's freaking sick.
Yeah, Montana's such a cool state. I remember when we went to Dutch Bros one time, and they're like, how they get all personal up in your car when you're just like,
I just need the coffee, dude.
Yeah, they're like, so if you guys could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? And my wife's like, I don't know, I think I want to go to Europe or something. And they asked me, I'm like, I just want to go to Montana. And they're like, what? That's your aspirations? I was like, Montana just seems like a cool spot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was when we learned, being from Oklahoma, there's so many trees everywhere where we lived. And when we found out that there is actually scattered showers because the sky is so big, you can say, oh, it's raining over there, and it's raining over there, and it's raining over there. So
in Montana?
Yeah. The big sky country is real.
Oh, yeah. That's one of their big ski resorts, right? Big Sky or something? Yeah, dude, that's cool. What did you guys do in Montana?
Actually, that's where I wanted to start hunting when I was 10. When I was in Oklahoma, I started watching the Real Tree Monster Buck VHS tapes, and I would just watch those on repeat, dude. And I had like a buck hunter game on the Windows 98 computer, and so I started getting into it kind of independently when I was 10. And then we moved to Montana, and some of the guys that my dad worked with, they asked him if he wanted to go elk hunting with them, and so he got a cow elk. My brother went out with him that day to shoot it. They had a wild adventure getting back. Got back at 1 a.m. We went back the next day and finished.
They get lost or what?
Yeah. Not lost necessarily, but had just grossly underestimated how far they had gone.
Oh.
And then had to get back.
Pre-Onyx days.
Yeah, pre-Onyx.
Yeah, that's when you were still carrying around a map.
Yeah. And it's kind of wild with the Onyx stuff. Like you can, if you have a battery, like the ability to read a map and use a compass is kind of, I don't think it should go away, but there's a lot of people that have no idea they have no sense of direction, and that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I could read Like if you just gave me a paper map and said, figure out where you're at, I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I could probably, if you told me where I was at, then I could probably figure out like how to read the topographical landscapes and stuff.
Yeah.
But just like to navigate stuff, I don't know. That'd probably be a good skill to learn.
Yeah.
So, did you get a hunt on the Indian reservation?
No. Actually, I'm a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation tribe out of Oklahoma. My grandpa grew up going to an Indian boarding school and grew up at the Indian Mission Church in eastern Oklahoma, where my dad's from. So I don't know. I should have thought about that because we lived in New Mexico too, and I don't know. I feel like it's pretty tribal. Like the tribe that owns that land, like they don't really care if you're from somewhere else. But the Apache tribe has some big bulls.
Yeah, what's that big one in New Mexico that everybody goes? Is it San Juan or San Pete or something like that?
There's the White Mountain is in Arizona, and then it's down by Ruidoso, New Mexico. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's that one that Cameron Haynes goes to. There's a big
check.
Or maybe it's Arizona.
I think it's Arizona.
Maybe it's Arizona.
Chiricahua Apache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like $100,000 for a tag.
Yeah, if only.
Gosh. Must be nice, you know?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah, that's crazy. I always wanted to go to Montana, though. I have a buddy that goes out to Montana, and he hunts out there, and I think he lives in, like, Florida or something, but I just met him online. But he goes out there, and I can't even imagine, like, the people that don't live in this state and just have to spend their whole week to go hunting in another state and just do all their e-scouting and stuff. Like, man, that's crazy to me.
If they're doing that, right? I've always wondered, like, I've gotten pretty fortunate with the e-scouting route here after I moved up here, but yeah, I can't imagine. You got to kind of be a bit of an e-scouting pro.
Well, then you think about like the people before even any of that came out, that they would draw tags in other states.
Yeah.
Like before there was any Google Earth or anything like
Yeah.
that. And you're just like going off of, go try out that hill over there. Like you're going off of locals just telling you, maybe that's right, maybe it's not.
Then they're misleading you intentionally because they don't want this Florida guy just arrowing bulls out their land.
Yeah. I know. Now thinking about that, I do know a lady that lives down on an Indian reservation down in, I think it's Arizona. And she was sending me like pictures of bighorn rams that they were getting and stuff. And I was like, dang, maybe I should hit her up. See if she's got a homie discount. I don't want it for free, but you got that homie hookup.
Yeah.
She'd be like, yeah, it's originally $60,000. We'll give it to you for $55. I'm like, never mind.
The kind of where we got to come into our own for the hunting world was when we moved to Nevada. we lived in Montana for a year and then moved to Elko, which is like 4 hours south of here. We lived in Spring Creek, Nevada. And some friends of ours from church had a big like 5th generation cattle ranch.
Did you guys move again for your dad's job or?
Yeah. All the moves were him getting itchy job feet and just growing his career.
You said he went to the feds then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was Bureau of Indian Affairs in Montana, Nevada, and then New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But the friends of ours that they had landowner tags, and they would charge, probably like $5,000 for a deer and $10,000 for an elk if you wanted to come out and hunt on their property. But then, since we went to church and we were friends with them, they were another homeschool family. We could just, if we drew a tag from the unit that their land was on, we could go out with them and stay at their cabin and stuff with them. And it honestly, like going to hunt public land when your first deer hunting experience was on a ranch where there's maybe 5 people on 160,000 acres or something like that. Yeah, it looks like a safari. Like they had this old like open top Land Cruiser or Jeep or something that we would drive out with in the morning, and we're asking like, hey, how early we're getting up, and they're like, oh, like 6:30. I'm like, what? Okay. And we get up at 6:30, eat breakfast, and then go get out in the sun's coming up, and we're driving off, and there's just freaking deer just jumping from everywhere by this dirt road, by this cabin. And I'm like, dude, it makes you never want to hunt public land again. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's like when you go to a controlled hunt unit too.
Yeah, it's just empty.
Yeah, and then
they act like they're supposed to act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. So how old were you when you went to New Mexico then? Or not New Mexico, sorry, Nevada.
I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were only in Montana for a year, and then we lived in Nevada from 2003 to 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you play any sports during any of this time? Or?
Yeah, when I was a kid, we started out with doing t-ball and then coach pitch. my brother and I were on different teams, and it was getting to be a bit much for my parents on shuffling people to practice in games and tournaments, and ended up basically making the call that we're going to stop that for a while. And my brother and I will give my mom crap for this, but they found us a baseball group that was like a homeschool baseball league. And it did not vibe with our very competitive nature that had basically taken root from playing this with the other guys. And but we did it, and it was fun. It was a good experience. But I picked it back up in high school and played some baseball. When you're homeschooled, actually, since you pay taxes, you can play sports on the high school teams. You can play football, and you can do.
Really?
You can do whatever you want. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're paying for it, so you might as well take them up on it.
Right.
You do have to help with actually, the reason I ended up playing baseball is I was interested in football, but I had missed out on the fundraising throughout the year, and so they're like, "Well, it's gonna be $450 for you to get equipment and play." And I was like, "I'll play on the baseball league instead."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. And so you said, where'd you go to high school then? Was that in Elko, or did you move?
So ninth grade, we moved from Elko to Albuquerque.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dang. So what is that, like 4 different states now?
Yeah.
You grew up in?
Oklahoma, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico.
Dang.
Yeah.
And that's when you started getting the itch for the dentistry area? Was it when you were like 16?
Yeah.
Sophomore area?
Yeah, sophomore, junior.
Yeah.
It literally just came out of, what are you going to do? What do you think you're going to do? And I was just like, maybe I'll be a dentist. And then it happened. So,
did you know any dentists or anything? Or was it like, you said you did know someone?
the guy that did our braces, we went to church with in Nevada. He kind of fit that old school dentist mentality. He was a cool guy, did great work. I think he had an airplane. He would go down and teach at UNLV, I think, at their dental school, because it's like a 7-hour drive to Vegas, or you probably like a 2-hour flight down there. But yeah, when I had a mutual friend that let me come shadow at his office when I was in high school.
So the first time you shadowed, you're like, yep, this is it?
The first time I shadowed, I went home and I was like, I'm not doing this. Because it was kind of an interesting case. There was sedation involved, so there was just him and one. I think it was actually, might have been another dentist that he was working on. And so we were there for hours and hours and hours on one guy. So I didn't really get, like, that first experience was not really a good indication of what running a dental practice is really like.
Yeah.
My dad's like, I think you probably should give that another shot, and just kind of kept at it. And then by the time I had thought about anything else, it was almost too late,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm pretty committed, so don't know what else I'm gonna do.
At what age did your dad start telling you, like, don't go law enforcement?
Pretty early on.
Really?
Very early.
Why didn't he want you to go law enforcement?
I think the 90s were a weird time for cops, because it was after a lot of unrest.
Was that like the Rodney King area?
Yeah. And I think that he did not want us to go through what he was going through, just being treated by people, how they were treated. And Oklahoma City is kind of a big city. It's got some rough parts of town, and every big city does, but it was just not something he ever wanted us to take part in.
Yeah. Your dad probably seen a lot of crazy stuff over his years.
He has.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Those are stories for
Yeah.
non-podcast.
Yeah.
Non-podcast stories.
Or he can tell him if he wants to come on. That'd be cool.
They're actually moving up here. They listed their house in Albuquerque. They're showing it today.
Oh, really?
They're going to move up here. Yeah.
Nice. They're building plenty of houses around here.
They are.
So you graduate then or how was your high school years then as a homeschooler? Like, did you still go out and do all the, get in trouble and all those things, or what was your high school years like?
I really didn't. I never snuck out. I was too afraid.
I guess your dad's a cop.
There was no way, dude, I was ever going to sneak out of the house. Junior year of high school, I basically quit homeschooling. I had my first job at a Kiva Juice, which is like a smoothie place in Albuquerque. And so I just switched over to the community college and then did the dual enrollment for high school. And by the time I graduated high school, I had all of my college core classes done. And then I did my freshman year at the community college, and then had enough credits to transfer to UNM, University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, as a transfer student.
How'd that conversation go when you said you wanted to quit homeschool?
Oh, it was like we don't really know what else there is for you to do here. You might as well like start taking chunks off of the college to lighten your course load and get better grades without having to like cram all of it into four years.
Oh, so it wasn't like a rebellious like
No, it was like you might as well, like, if you want to get a job and have some money, then if you're going to be driving into town, you might as well start the college classes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually all ended up doing that, me and my siblings.
How many siblings you got? I know you said your brother, but
yeah, so I've got my brother who's a dentist here in Boise, and then my sister was a nurse, and she lives in Albuquerque with her husband. He's in radiology residency at UNMH, and then my youngest brother is an engineer here in Caldwell. He lives in Nampa now.
Hot dog.
Yeah,
bunch of successful
bunch of
dudes.
nerds, dude.
Yeah. So did your brother go down the same route then as you? Like you guys were both interested in dentistry, or is he older than you or younger than you?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah. I think initially he was interested in medicine, like medical doctor stuff, and then ended up kind of getting rebuffed and had a hard time getting involved with the with shadowing needs, because you have to have so many hours when you apply to med school. And actually, I've never really asked him like why exactly he ended up taking the same route. We ended up going to the same dental school, so we had 2 years of overlap where I was actually his senior mentor in dental school. So when you go into junior year, you get assigned a freshman student to help them navigate school. So I requested him, and so we got to hang out a lot in school.
What was some things when you went to dental school that you weren't expecting? It was like eye-opening, that you had no idea about the dental world, or maybe the back end of it, of legalities and stuff like that?
Dude, honestly, this is gonna sound so stupid. I hadn't really thought through cadaver labs. I hadn't really thought about it. I was like, well, med students, they have to dissect human cadavers in school, and I was like, I don't know. I never thought about it. And then I'm looking at the lab or the schedule they hand you when you get there, and then they wheel in all the bodies, and you've got to like take out the cadavers from the packaging as they come from the facilities that put them all together. For
Straight from the body, not even like they just take the mouth or okay.
No, we did the first 2 years of dental school are really close to med school. I wouldn't say that they're the same, but we get a lot of the same education as medical doctors until we kind of diverge and then just specialize in the oral head and neck region.
So they bring out a dead body, and then what's going through your mind, dude?
There's some people that really didn't handle it well. We actually had a guy that walked out of dental school and quit.
Done.
During anatomy lab one day. But they put these blue towels over their hands and their faces, because that's kind of like what freaks people out a little bit, is when you see their face. And everybody's really respectful. Like they have donated their body for you to learn. And so, but they have to be taken out of the packaging and put onto the lab tables. And so that's like your first day, is cutting open the bags and moving them with your group of people into the dissecting tables that you're going to use them on. And you use the same body for the first semester, which is gross anatomy. So all the generalized anatomy. We stopped at the waist and reproductive region.
Oh, so you're not just doing the mouth?
No, we did the whole thing except for the legs.
Oh,
yeah. So we do gross anatomy for the first year.
So because you said it's the same as medical school for the first couple years.
Yeah. A lot of the classes are the same. You kind of can get into the weeds about whether or not you're they do like systems based teaching in a lot of medical schools, but the dental school world that I was in, at least, I know there's dental schools that do the systems based thing where like you'll do the arm. Like everybody starts anatomy, I feel like, on the arm, where you learn about the brachial plexus and the nerve bundles, and you start out there. But then like in med school, if you do a systems based approach, like you're going to learn the neurology side of it. You're going to learn the musculature and the bones. You're going to do it all for that. And then you'll move on to the thorax, and then you'll move to the head and the neck. And then, but ours was just like, we would take actual classes for those subjects. So we would do neurology, and we would have physiology, and we'd have pathology, and it was all separate, and we had to kind of put it all together to work for ourselves. Um, but yeah, you use that same body for the whole the first 2 semesters of freshman year.
So this might be a dumb question, but if you're just a dentist, why are they teaching you about like the rest of the body?
I believe the oral cavity and the head and neck that we are trained in is the gateway to the rest of the body. And if you need to know, you don't need to know it, but you need to know drugs, how they interact with patients, pharmaceuticals. We see a lot of patients that are ranging from super healthy to incredibly medically compromised, and you need to understand like what's going on with them, because if you, for instance, like if somebody's had a heart valve transplant and you do work on them and you mobilize bacteria into their bloodstream, you can get an infective endocarditis infection on the heart valve, and then it's your fault that their heart valve failed, and then they're getting open heart surgery again to replace the valve because you didn't understand the processes behind
Oh,
what was
dang.
going on. Yeah. So that first year, you spend a lot of time with the cadaver, and dissection is weird. You really spend a lot of your time just picking through fat and fascia tissue to find the structures that you're looking for, and that totally is dictated by whether your cadaver is overweight or underweight or underdeveloped or overdeveloped. Sometimes I heard that somebody had a cadaver that had been basically like an athlete that had a heart attack, and so they honestly like had the best experience in anatomy, because every muscle group there's low fat content, so you're not trying to like spend 2 hours pulling through tissue trying to find a nerve bundle.
Yeah.
And we do that for 3 or 4 hours twice a week.
So 2 semesters, that's a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep that body? I mean, obviously they put it on
preserved.
cold, but
It's preserved
they
with
put like
preservatives and stuff.
So how does that affect anything when you're doing your like I don't know, what was the word you said? Is it dissecting?
Dissection,
right?
yeah.
Does that affect anything that you're looking for, like between like a real body that hasn't been preserved?
Oh, for sure. Color can change. Everything kind of becomes a little more like singular color. Like whereas I don't know, like when you take apart a wild game animal that's been dead for 2 minutes, everything has its own. There's red and there's white and there's green, and all of that becomes a lot more muted. And so when you're looking for structures, especially small blood vessels, like you could accidentally clip one when you're trying to look for it.
Yeah.
And so
what kind of things are you guys doing when you're dissecting them?
Identifying structures and learning where they are. So your practicals for human anatomy classes, you'll have 50 stations throughout the room with a little flag tag in a part of the body, and they'll ask you, usually not like too many second or third order questions. Most of it is identification of what is this structure. And so like when we get to the head and neck, when you finish the first semester of gross anatomy, you have to prep the bodies for head and neck anatomy, which is the second semester. And so that was a weird day, because then they hand out these hair clippers and you shave the heads, and then you use a saw to take off basically from the collarbones up. So then that's what you use, but then you have to take off the skull cap, and then I think the physical therapy students, they actually use the brain. So they use the brains. And then you take a saw right down the middle, and then you open that head up so that you can see all of the foramen in the skull for where the cranial nerves are going, all of the blood supply, and you've got to know where all that stuff is at.
I'm getting woozy just thinking about that, dude. I'm like, I don't know. That's definitely not my forte. But
yeah, that was probably like the biggest shock to me. And in hindsight, it's really stupid to be like, oh, I didn't think I was gonna have to dissect bodies. Of course you're gonna dissect bodies.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think of dentistry, and I'm thinking you're just like working, like in a dentist office, pretty much, and just learning. I'm not even thinking about all that back end schooling, because how many years of schooling did you have to go to?
4 years of college, 4 years of dental school, and then I did an optional 1-year residency.
9 years total.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Post high school, 9 years.
Dude, I don't think. I think I would have been one of those guys that they bring out the dead body, and I'm like,
I'm out.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go work at a prison.
Well, what's really crazy is when people decide that they want to specialize, there's different specialties that we go into as dentists, and all specialists are dentists at their core, but then they've received 2 to 6 years of post grad training. in that specific field. And so you'll have a periodontist, they're pros at gum and bone surgeries. And then we'll have endodontists that do root canals, root surgeries, root tip surgeries. It's called an apicoectomy. So they'll fix when root canals go south. That's who we call in to bail us out, to keep teeth in the mouth. Pediatric dentists, that's its own specialty residency. And then orthodontics is 3 years post-grad. And then the longest one is maxillofacial surgery residency. There's 2 ways you can do it. There's a 4-year track and then a 6-year track. My best friend from dental school went to University of Washington and did the 6-year track. You have an intern year, you do the last 2 years of med school, get your MD in addition to your DDS, and then to do the finish out residency just doing head and neck surgeries.
Is that like facial surgeries and stuff?
Yeah. They do a lot. They do a lot with that. And depending on, like what your goal is as a maxillofacial doc, you're either going to be in private practice, doing wisdom teeth, orthognathic surgeries so like people have really, really bad skeletal alignment that want braces, but their bite is super off because the skull structure is not right. They'll actually section the jaw bones and move those forward or backward to kind of put things in proper alignment while they're in braces. So that's orthognathic surgery. And then traditionally, oral surgeons have been the ones that do implants, but implant surgery has really hit the mainstream for general practice docs. So I do a lot of implants, but I think that being a good general practice dentist is knowing where you need to stop and where you need to enlist the help of a specialist. And I always tell my patients, like, hey, I will do what I know I can give you a result I'll be happy with. And if I can't, then it's time to talk to other people. And actually, it kind of blows my mind how resistant a lot of patients are to going to another office for a specialty reference or referral. It's like, well, I don't want to go anywhere else. It's like, well, I'm not going to pull these wisdom teeth, and they need to come out, and so you're going to have to.
Yeah.
You go to a medical doctor. That's just like kind of where the weird dichotomy between medical doctors and dentists is. I think people in their heads have a very strict idea about what dentistry is, and people are like, well, I just want my cleaning. It's like, well, if you come to my office, I'm going to screen you and make sure that you don't have any periodontal disease, because if you have periodontal disease, you're technically no longer a candidate to have 6-month, we call it a prophylactic cleaning. Because once you've reached that point, you can't grow bone back. You've got bone loss around the teeth and gum disease that's active. And so those 6-month cleanings that are covered by your insurance are not going to fix the problem. And so for a lot of us, we view that as like, if we do those 6-month cleanings on somebody that has that's basically supervised neglect. And so there's a lot of, you got to really be able to talk to people and broach those conversations gently, because it's a really easy way to run people out of your office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, in my experience at the prison, I went to a lot of those orthopedic surgeons because they would get in fights and break their jaws and all that, like the ortho, or what is this bone? Whatever it's called right here.
Oh, your maxillary. The
yeah,
maxilla.
Ocular,
the ocular
bone. Yeah. Yeah, so I got to see like a lot of those surgeries. I don't know if you know the dude that does, he works right across the street in St. Al's. Downstairs. Do you know him?
I don't.
He's always wearing Kuyu.
Is he really?
He's got like an orange Bronco, and he's just always like, we're always just talking hunting stuff. You'd probably really get along with him. His name's Dr. Cole Anderson, I think.
Oh yeah, I know who he is. I've not met him, but
yeah,
there's
a cool dude.
There's a shocking number of people that can handle craniofacial trauma. You'll have plastic surgery can do that. Some ENT surgeons will do that, and then oral and maxillofacial surgeons.
Yeah.
So it's a broad field of people that are trained in that.
Yeah, he's got a really cool office there, but yeah, we've seen a whole bunch of just people just getting fights. They break their bones, and then I've been in the surgeries too, because when you're in the prison world, if an inmate has to get a surgery, the officers have to be in there too in case he wakes up or goes crazy or something, and you have to be able to go hands on. But it's cool to see doctors change when they're under the patient's under. They're like normal people listening to like Def Leppard or something while they're doing surgeries. And like it's cool. But yeah, there's a lot of people that break their jaw bones out there. It's wild.
I have a story that I think we may have to talk about outside of the podcast. But I have worked on a prisoner before that was injured. That was taken in the hospital by some U.S. Marshals. That was cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was in his like belly chains and everything, and he was a cool guy. I enjoyed talking to him, but I had to work on him.
Here in Idaho?
No,
Oh,
super early on when I was on call.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah, whenever they are in the doctor's office, they're still in chains and everything, unless the doctor asks us. But usually it's like a hand doctor. If they need their hand or something, then we can take them out. But it has to be doctor's orders only to take them out.
Yeah.
And usually it's only one hand at a time. But yeah, it's crazy. So that was, oh man, I can't get over that. That's crazy. The cadavers. So were they always adults, or did you ever have kids?
No, all adults.
You would, well, maybe if you were one of the pediatric.
I think that once you understand the anatomy, the pediatric world, they're not going to be doing that. All of that is straight clinical training. So they're going to be working at a hospital, like a children's hospital, because a lot of pediatric work involves sedation and putting kids to sleep while you're doing the work on them, because it's just too much traumatic experience for them.
Yeah, my autistic son, he's gone to, what did he get? He got something done at the dentist. But yeah, he just won't do anything. So we had to get him sedated, and it was like a whole day out practice thing or something. It wasn't even at his regular dentist. They had to do it
At the hospital? Or do they have a
No, it was
surgical
just
suite?
like an office.
Oh, okay.
It was like an office somewhere, but it wasn't his same site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll always have to be sedated if there's anything that's going to have to be done on him, unfortunately, because I don't think he'll sit still. But
Yeah, when I was in residency, we had a lot of OR time taking adults with special needs, and the vast majority of them are probably nonverbal autistic patients that, 1 minute you can be having a normal conversation, like talking with, they're not speaking to you, but you're interacting with them, and then next thing you know, you're looking in their mouth and they try to headbutt you, and you're just like, hey, you're gonna have to go to the operating room. And our wait list to get into the OR was like 2 years to get patients in to do work in the operating room.
yeah, we had some crazy. Well, we'll get into that later, but like I still want to go through your schooling. So then you get the first couple of years, and then you really go into a dental practice, then, right? Or a dental school, because the first 2 years is pretty much medical school.
It's not pretty much. It's the same coursework, but it's all like one dental program track. Okay. And so you're doing a lot of didactic schoolwork. And then second year, you're still doing a lot of didactic work, but you're getting more into the dental side, learning to use dental drills, and how to prep teeth for removing decay and how to restore teeth. And you do it all on models. And then as time goes on, you go from the models to working on what's called like a dummy lab, a simulation lab. And so we have like this plastic patient head that sits in front of the chair, and you've got like a fake, like a practice set up with like drills and the bracket table and everything. And you're learning to transfer those hand skills that you've been doing on a tabletop. Now you have to do them in a fake mouth, because anybody can use a drill on a tabletop in front of you, but then you've got to be able to translate that and flip it upside down and do it in a mirror with water on a human being. And so that's a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second year is when you work on your first patient with your senior student. So now you're a sophomore, they're a senior. You use one of their patients. They find a super straightforward filling for you to do. And then you have like a clinic day where everybody does their first filling on a live patient.
How much school do you have to go through until you can finally be like getting paid on the job training?
You don't have to do a residency as a dentist. So 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of dental school, and then you can go right into work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went through all your school in New Mexico then, right? Or did you have to go out of state?
I went to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was totally off then.
Yeah.
So they're the fifth state.
Yeah. There's no dental school in New Mexico. I think they're starting one. I've heard that they're starting one.
So did you move then to Nebraska for 8 years then?
For 4 years.
Or for
so I went
4
to
years,
University of New Mexico in Albuquerque for 4, and then moved to Omaha for the 4 years of school, and then stayed there for my residency for another year.
What was life like in Nebraska?
Omaha is awesome. I feel like if you're an outdoorsman to a degree, there's a decent amount to do. There used to be a lot of pheasant there, but people like to bird hunt, but only like 2% of Nebraska is public land. So you've got to know people. There's tons of corn, lots of farming. So as far as like hunting opportunities, you're limited to a few areas around Omaha. I actually shot my first deer with a bow when I was there at a little wildlife management area just south of Omaha, right on the Missouri River. And so it's a tag system. I think they do like 100 tags down there. Yeah, and I was just in a ground blind and shot this whitetail.
Right on.
That was cool.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, with my dad's old Browning Bridger 2 compound bow. It had to have been from like 1988 or something like that, because it was old when he got it in like 1996, 97.
Probably no let off.
No, none. No, and it was crazy though. It went all the way through. But then I realized, because I had taken that bow elk hunting unsuccessfully in New Mexico before that, and so I was set up with these like 125 grain Muzzy broadheads, and then I shot this little whitetail with it, and it sounded like a wet steak hitting a rock at 100 miles an hour, dude. It was just like thunk, and I saw the arrow just fly. And we went back the next spring, took the tree stand out that I had there, and found the arrow.
Dang.
So, yeah.
A lot of FOC on that one.
Yeah, just straight down. He was like 20 yards away. But Nebraska's cool. The city of Omaha itself is it's about 45 miles from Lincoln, which is where the main University of Nebraska Lincoln Cornhusker Stadium is, and so sometimes we'd land tickets to go to a Husker game. Creighton basketball is a big deal. And then the College World Series baseball is in Omaha.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot to do. Most of the time you're just too busy with school, like, because we're there Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 every single day. So you had 2 days off a week, and most of it was spent studying until you really start learning, like, and you're in the swing of school, and then you can start trying to, spend some time doing whatever else it is you want to do.
So, how was it adjusting from the homeschool, not having homework, to going to college and freaking medical school? I'm sure you had plenty of homework to do then.
Yeah, college. I did a degree in biology, and I minored in psych. That was like the fastest, easiest way to get all of my like upper level, 300 and 400 level courses done without having to take extra school. We didn't have a ton of homework. The worst homework class was this biochem class that we took that I honestly was kind of a huge waste of time. The amount of busy work required after, it was just like, it was not put together well. I didn't learn anything, and managed to like skate through with, I think I got an A or a B in it, because we all worked together on the homework. And that was the vast majority of the grade, but homework wasn't bad. It was learning to study. That was the big thing for me.
Is that hard? Yeah, because you never had to study before then.
Yeah, I basically like just learned everything as I went. So college and learning to study, that's a skill, and I'm still not very good at it. I really excelled in dental school with the hand skills. That's kind of like that's why I like dentistry, and I like that it's procedural and I get to be hands-on because I'm good with my hands. And I learn these things didactically, but spitting them out on tests, like I said, was never my strong suit.
Yeah.
Back on the Omaha subject though, they have like the best steakhouses.
Omaha Steakhouse, right? I see the.
Yeah, that's a big company, but there's a bunch of them that have been there for a long time. We had one special one that we liked called 801 Chop House. I think actually it's a smaller restaurant group, because there's one in Kansas City and there's one in Omaha too, in Denver.
Okay.
And that was like our favorite steakhouse in downtown, so we would always splurge. Actually, I think there was a Groupon that we would just, I mean, everything you do, you're spending like student loans on. And so we're trying not to go, break the bank, but you can buy a Groupon and go out and eat. So
yeah,
we did that a lot.
Dang.
Yeah.
So when you finally graduate, and then you do your 1 year, what was your 1 year additional you said you did?
It's called a general practice residency. So there's 2 1-year tracks that you can do. One's called a advanced education in general dentistry, an AEGD, which is mostly clinical, and then a general practice residency, which is in a hospital. Okay. So I would take, I was one of 6 residents. We would take turns being on call for the emergency room, and then the like the organ transplant clearance team, and then like a big procedural team. So like if somebody needed like a organ transplant, you had to clear them from a dental infection perspective, and so you had to make sure that they don't have any teeth that are going bad on them, because if you get a new liver and then you've got an infected tooth, that makes your liver fail because your body's in a immune response to it that has to go. So you got to take all that out and get it taken care of before you can get the surgeries.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your coolest experience doing that for that year?
Um, I think I think having the opportunity to learn to work professionally with other people in medicine, because it's been so isolated within the dental field, whereas medical students, they're learning other sides of medicine as they go, but we just learned dental. And so being able to learn to communicate with medical doctors and just to kind of get a grasp of how medicine works, because that was something that I never really was exposed to. Like, how does a hospital work? Like, who are these teams of people? Like, how is a hospital organized? Because we would go on call and we'd need to go see somebody, and they would give us this like, they give them the room number, and it's like 7 numbers long, and you have to look at the map of the hospital because there's like 8 towers. The hospital there is gigantic. It's huge. It's probably 3 times as big. If you put St. Luke's and St. Al's downtown together, it's probably like 4 or 5 times bigger than that.
Jeez.
It's huge. It's a big learning level 1 trauma hospital. So yeah, you have to basically get the map and figure out where you're going to go. But yeah, just being exposed to like the higher levels of medicine and seeing how dentistry fits into that was really cool.
Did you ever have any close calls like in school that you weren't gonna pass? I know you said that first year you had a hard time. Was it that first year with the cadavers? Was that the same year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my bane of my existence was my histology class.
What's that?
Histology is the study of microscopic study of tissues and how they show up on microscope slides. And so all the different tissues in your body are made up of different layers, and where they come from is part of the next part of the class, which is head and neck embryology and oral histology. And so I got a D. We had a really stupid grading point scale at Creighton. It was like, to get a B, you had to get an 86, and to get an A, you had to get a 93. So you could make it all the way through dental school getting solid like 89s, 90s, and have a B average. And so if you get an 85, which is smack dab in the middle of a B anywhere else, then that's a C.
What does your grades affect in college? I mean, if you pass, you pass, right? Or is it
in college? If you're not applying to go on to grad school, they don't really matter. Nobody that you go to work with is probably going to request transcripts of how you did in certain classes. Although, if like you're a biology major and you want to go work at a like an immunology lab or whatever, you're probably going to have to go to grad school for something like that. But they may ask you, like, how did you perform in immunology? Or they'll get letters of reference from your professors in those classes.
Gotcha.
They're going to want to know. But GPA, and then the DAT, which is the test that dentists take. Med students take the MCAT. We take the DAT. So between your DAT scores and your GPA in college is going to dictate where you get into dental school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang, dude. So you go. Where was it? You said you met your wife and all this.
She moved back to Omaha from across the street from me to go to get her accelerated BSN for nursing. So she had her bachelor's in nursing. That's what she was in school for. She got her first degree in exercise science, and then she worked as a traveling leadership consultant for her sorority for a year. And so then she came back and started nursing school, and that's how I met her.
You met her inside the hospital?
No, I met her across the street from my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Her name's been Caitlin across the street in my phone. My buddy and me came up with that one day when she came walking up, and we said hi and asked her if she wanted to eat dinner with us. And she was like, "No, thanks, dude." And it progressed much better from there. But we ended up, I was actually doing that deer hunt. I was sitting I hate blind hunting, dude, but I was sitting there texting her, and we set up a date, and like 2 weeks out, which, you're never supposed to like schedule a first date out that far, but it worked for us. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's how we met, was in dental school.
Did you take her to a steakhouse?
We did not. We went to his Chicago Pizza Kitchen. We went to it was fall, which in Omaha is amazing, kind of like Boise, like the amount of tree. I'm not from here, so I have a hard time saying the Boise S, but a lot of big trees, and she's kind of a fall junkie, and so we went out to dinner one night and walked around this park, which is actually where I proposed to her, where we got engaged. That's the same park we had on our first date.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How long were you guys dating before you got engaged?
We dated a year, and actually just shy of a year. We started dating in October of 16 and then got engaged in September of 17. married in October of 18.
So you're just persistent. She shot you down the first time. You're just,
Yeah, pretty much.
come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
One more chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we got married while I was in my residency.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in October. We started residency July 1st, and we got married in October.
Is that hard having like two people in medical because you guys have like different shifts and everything, so you hardly see each other, or how did that work?
As a nurse, it was actually pretty nice. Most nurses start out working nights, so they work 3/12s, and so she would work 3 nights a week, and those would be the nights that I would hang out with people or play video games with my buddies. Because then when I was in residency, I didn't have any homework to do because
Yeah.
you're basically just working in the hospital, which is crazy because like that's absurd to say that in residency I didn't have anything to do outside of school, because everybody that's like, if you're in oral surgery residency, like you're getting worked like 110 hours a week, and I honestly, like, mine was pretty chill. But yeah, so during COVID was like a super stressful time because she worked in the medical ICU at University of New Mexico Hospital, which was it was like the big pulling hospital from eastern Arizona and southern Colorado and down into Texas. Like they were just inundated during COVID, and so that was a super stressful time for us, because then she also started grad school. You know, she got her doctorate as a nurse practitioner, and she started that 2 years after she finished her. We moved back to New Mexico.
So was your residency your first job then?
Yeah, as a dentist.
No, just in general, or did you have jobs like while you were going to school and stuff too?
Yeah. So when I was so my first job was at that smoothie shop, which
right,
sucked super bad.
Yeah.
That was not a fun place to work. I worked there for 2 years. I became a shift manager, was given a key to the store, handled the money, never got a raise, showed up for work, was getting paid minimum wage in Albuquerque, which
Jeez.
was like $6.50 an hour.
Jeez.
Got accused of stealing out of a tip jar one day when there were 2 customers that came in. It was snowing outside, and I worked from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. by myself. And at one point I went up and like checked to see if anybody had given us tips, and they were watching me on the camera, and I didn't know this. And I put the tip jar back down, and the next thing I know, like the next day, a friend of mine comes in that was working with me. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to come into work for a bit." And they said they wanted me to help. They thought, I don't remember what the wording was. And then my manager came in and he accused me of stealing out of the tip jar. And I was like, "You thought that I stole, what, 50 cents out of a tip jar?" There was like, no, there wasn't even any cash in there. He's like, "Yeah, that's kind of weird." I was like, "There were 2 people. We made like $40 the whole like for 6 hours of work. Like, what are you talking about?" And I maintained my innocence. I didn't take it.
Yeah.
I was like, "It's under a camera. How stupid do you think I
Right.
am?" Anyway, they called the owner down. He's like, "If you're maintaining your innocence, we'll call the owner and you can talk to him." I was like, "Well, freaking call him. Tell him to come down."
Yeah.
And so he drove down, and I was like, "I didn't take the freaking money, and I don't appreciate being accused of stealing $2. Like, what purpose does that serve?"
Yeah.
So that let me keep my job. I immediately started looking for another job, because I didn't want that like on my mental record that I've been fired.
Yeah.
So I stayed on, got a job at Starbucks, immediately was making more money. It was closer to my house. And then I quit. Yeah, I was like, "I'm done. We're not doing this anymore." So did Starbucks for a while. And actually, a lot of people say that Starbucks was like super, super helpful with people that are going to school and scheduling. That was not my experience. Like, there was a lot of times where I'd say, "Hey, I need to be off this day. I've got tests." Because I mean, my goal is not to be working at Starbucks for the next 10 years. Like, I'm trying to go to dental school. And I eventually ended up quitting. And then what happened next? So I quit for a while and focused on school. But I would say most of the time I was in college, I was making some kind of money, just to have, you know. But then my brother and I started subcontracting for a construction lady, a contractor in Albuquerque. And so we just did that over whenever we weren't working. She was super chill. She's like, "Anytime you want to work, just let me know and I'll find something for you to do."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we did that for
That paid for your
rest of
hobbies?
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool, man. So then you get out, and did you just go start working for another dentist, or did you start your own thing right away? Or?
I did not start my own thing. I took a scholarship. Actually, I tried to get into the Army and got medically disqualified for the dental scholarship because of my eyes. I had a medical disqual for an eye condition that there's no waiver for. So I really wanted to get out of school debt free, and was like, well, I'm the first generation in my family in a while to not be in the military. I'd love to do the military and then do what I'm going to go to school for at the same time. That didn't pan out. Tried to go to the Navy. They said, we'll get you a waiver. And I was like, cool. That I didn't apply for the state scholarship, which you can get a 4-year where they pay basically that you don't get any money from the scholarship. They put it towards your tuition bill. So they cut it almost in half. And Creighton, when I started dental school, I want to say it was like $50,000 a year. So for 4 years, they cut it in half. It's like 27,000 is what you have to fund, whether that be through student loans or however else you're going to come up with that much money for school. So I didn't apply for the state scholarship because the Navy said they were going to give me a waiver. And then they were like, well, we can't give you a waiver. And I was like, I didn't think you would, but now I've missed out on this first year that I was going to get a discount. And then was fortunate enough to take out this, get onto that scholarship for the last 3 years of school. The downside to that is if you get 4 years of school, you only have to stay for 3 years. So I did 3 years of the scholarship and still had to go work for 3. Yeah. So I knew I didn't want to stay in New Mexico for the long run. I'd moved around too much, and it was just long term. It's not where I saw myself putting down roots.
Yeah.
So I worked for a big corporate company called Pacific Dental Services on the northeast side of Albuquerque. And it's like a huge, huge business in the West, pretty much. I think they have stuff down into Texas, and they're moving eastward. But there's these big dental companies that are called DSOs, dental support organizations. And some of them allow people to have ownership stakes in the office, and some of them don't. But if you see places that have like really uniform, like you'll see like several offices, and you'll start to see trends if you start keeping an eye out for it, like whether the name has like a really perfect ring to it, and you'll see designs and stickers on the windows that like you see throughout other offices. Those are probably Pacific Dental supported practices.
It's like a cookie cutter.
Kind of, yeah. And they're very successful for a reason. They really they have a lot of systems in place that help you grow as a provider. And since I knew that I didn't want to stay there, I was like, well, my goal was to pay down as much student loans as I could, do my time, and then in that time period, figure out where we wanted to move with Caitlin. So I did that job for a while. And then it was never busy enough at that location. It was kind of a stretch to keep me on and keep paying me because there was like a multi-factored thing. Like I was pretty new, and you think you know a lot, and then you get into private practice or into practice in the real world, and you're like, oh my God, I'm not very fast. I've got to get this done. But then in the back of your head, in the back of your mind, you're like, well, I need to provide quality work, but it's taking me a lot longer than I thought, and now I'm late. And then the next patient's been here for half an hour and I'm running behind. And so there's a huge learning curve of like getting out of school where it takes you all afternoon to do one filling under supervision. And then, translating that to private practice, because now you have to talk to patients and be the face of the healthcare provider that they're seeing. And so dentistry is weird because like we're like part salesman and part healthcare provider, because so many of us are in private practice. It's not like going to the hospital or like going to see your primary health doctor that's part of a giant group. Most of us are either part of one of these big support organizations or private practice. I'd say that's like where most of it falls.
Yeah.
And so you have to like help make patients aware, like they're coming to you to ask you to help them get healthy. But a lot of people, and I think like that's part of the human condition, is sometimes we'd rather be ostriches with our heads in the sand. Like those are the people that are like, I just want my teeth cleaned and I want to leave. It may not be the practice for you then, because you're going to get a very thorough exam here, and I'm going to tell you what needs to be done. And so, you can always have those conversations with people. It's like, is this really what you want? Like, we can provide that, but you have to be aware that that's not how we normally do things.
Yeah.
So I worked for them for about 18 months, and then worked for another private office, private company in Albuquerque that was like a very Medicaid heavy practice. Medicaid is like super different between states. In New Mexico, taking Medicaid can actually be quite lucrative. They will automatically approve any filling and any extraction that needs done. And then anything else you have to pre-authorize. So if a patient needs dentures, you have to ask in the Medicaid group if they're going to pay for it. And then they'll write you back a letter and say, hey, we'll approve the dentures. well, then now they have teeth, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, you're going to take out somebody's teeth. Now they have nothing to chew with. And then you're going to cross your fingers that the powers that be wave their magic wand and say, oh, by the way, yeah, you can have your teeth.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, is a totally different experience than the private practice I was at in the northeast side of Albuquerque. But I learned a lot, and I loved the people that I work with. I still talk to a lot of them today. Yeah, and so I did that for the next half of the time I was there. Then I worked at a private practice in Boise as an associate, and then for about 14 months, just moved up here in July of 2022.
Yeah, what made you want to move then? Like, what was that point that you're like, we gotta get out of here?
New Mexico for me, I feel like New Mexico had a hard time ever recovering from the recession, and it just continued this like downward spiral of crime, property crime, burglaries. It's a
Breaking Bad.
It's my joke when people ask like, what's New Mexico like? I'm like, have you seen Breaking Bad? And they say, yeah. I was like, it's like that.
Pretty.
I lived about 5 minutes from Walter White's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where they filmed it. It's all filmed there. Unfortunately,
that chick is like, she put a fence in front of her yard now, right?
Yeah,
like,
because people were throwing pizzas on her roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just seen a video with her the other day now because she had put a fence over there, and then there's like these supercars that came out, and then she was actually pretty chill with them. She wanted to sit in their car and stuff, but she was she said they didn't actually film inside there, all the outside stuff, but everything that was inside was actually in a studio, but everything outside was at her house. Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate because I love New Mexico. I mean, I spent the vast majority, like 15 years off and on, like that was my home base. And it's, as far as the outdoors goes, like New Mexico is phenomenal. Like if you like to ski, you've got like 6 ski areas within 3 hours of you.
It's crazy because you never really think of New Mexico as like they got snow.
Yeah, it kind of flies under the radar for a lot of things. It's almost 3 times the elevation that Boise's at.
Really?
Yeah, where our apartment in Albuquerque was at 6,300 feet. Albuquerque's higher than Denver. Denver's like at 1 mile, but Albuquerque's 5,500 feet.
Oh, dang.
The vast majority of the northern half of the state is super, super high altitude.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. That's interesting.
So it's actually cooler there in the summer in Albuquerque, at least, than it is here. It gets way hotter here.
So speaking of meth, what's that like working on like on a patient that's definitely had drug use?
I think it kind of depends on what somebody has had in the past.
And is it pretty I mean, it's pretty easy to tell like when someone's done certain drugs versus others, or
I would say that rampant drug use like methamphetamines is probably the most obvious. You get people here and there that smoke a lot of weed that when they want nitrous, that's what I think that's really funny is people are like, well, I want nitrous because I get freaked out, and I'm turning up the nitrous and asking like, do you feel that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, did you smoke weed today? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's why the nitrous didn't do anything, dude. Like why go on the swings when you've already been to Disneyland? Like that's how your brain.
Oh, they're just trying to get.
They're trying to like. Well, some of them are genuinely afraid of the dentist, and they want the nitrous, but it doesn't work because they smoke pot. And so you're getting high all the time from marijuana, and you're not feeling the effects of the nitrous oxide. Really, the downside to methamphetamine, when from a dental perspective, is that it dries out your mouth. And a lot of users end up seeking constant stimulant, whether that be from sugar and Mountain Dew. So a lot of soda is consumed by meth users. But when you have a dry mouth with sugar, it's like a recipe for disaster. And once you're hooked, like oral care is not high on your list. And so you've got like the trifecta of having your mouth be absolutely destroyed in a short amount of time. So rampant decay happens because of the dry mouth with the sugar intake and the lack of keeping it clean.
And at that point, like just taking out the teeth is pretty much
depends on how bad they are. Yeah, because I would say that I don't. It's probably pretty rare that I see like active addicts coming in and seeking dental treatment.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like the vast majority of people that I've seen are prior users that are trying to get their lives back on track.
Yeah.
Um, so that, yeah, but the meth stuff, the meth mouth comes from the dry mouth and the sugar.
Okay. I would
Yeah.
have thought it was just like the tooth decaying from the drug or something. I didn't even think of that part.
Yeah, the drug doesn't really do anything to that, but it does dry out your mouth. And honestly, like that's dry mouths and sugar are why a lot of people end up with cavities, especially as we age as a population. We start ending up on multiple medications. Your mouth gets dry, and by age default, like your salivary production goes down, and saliva is what like keeps your teeth clean. That and your tongue. And so it's kind of weird. You start seeing these patterns of like, uh, when I'm doing exams on people and checking out their gum health, well, like the outside edges on the top are dirty because they're not brushing them, but the insides don't hurt when I probe them because their tongue is actually like naturally keeping it clean. And so I'm like, hey, like that hurt on the outside, right? And yeah. And I said, did it hurt when I probed the inside? And they said, no. And I was like, it's because it's clean. So you got to like improve your home care. I tell people that are like that are using manual toothbrushes, they'll be like, well, I have an electric one, but I don't use it. I'm like, just throw the manual away. Just don't use it. Unless it's like in your truck as an emergency, like you need to brush teeth or something during the day,
Yeah.
but like just use an electric toothbrush.
It makes that big of a difference, huh?
It's huge. And a lot of it just comes from the cyclical cleaning nature, like because you don't ever just use an electric brush and just hold it on there and let the brush do the work. Like you should be brushing your teeth with the electric brush running at the same time. And so if you do that, and you imagine like how many times you can draw a little circle with a toothbrush versus drawing the circle while it's vibrating and cleaning at the same time, like it's actually thousands of times more efficient when you're using it correctly.
Why is there such like a big? Some people like fluoride, and some people say it's bad for you. Like, what's the fluoride thing?
I was wondering if you were going to ask about this. So this is, I will say that before I go into that realm, they're like my opinions.
Yeah, just your opinion.
Not American Dental Association, not Idaho State Dental Association.
Yeah, the asterisks.
Yeah. So fluoride keeps teeth from decaying because we're going to go like a little bit of a nerd dive here in chemistry, but essentially like your teeth are made up of hydroxyapatite crystals, which is basically what's in your bone, what's in the inner layer of the tooth called dentin, and it's in the outer layer of the tooth called enamel. There's actually a cool Magic School Bus episode that talks about this, where there's like a hood ornament made out of sugar, and then when they put it in the water, it dissolves, but then they're watching it like reconstitute itself because there's sugar in the water, and when you look at stuff under like an electron microscope, that crystals form like a lattice work under microscope. And so as teeth break down where plaque is building up, it's actually not even the sugar that's decaying the teeth. It's the bacteria that eat the sugar. And by sugar can mean any carbohydrate, because when those break down, they break down into sugar, whether that be lactose, sucrose, bread, chips, like all of that gets broken down into things that those bacteria can eat, and they excrete acid byproducts. And so acidity in your mouth is what causes teeth to fall apart. And so our bodies exist at around a 7.2 pH. Enamel starts to fall apart at anything under 5.5. But a Dr. Pepper is like a 3. Stomach acid's like a 2, 1.8 or something like that. So now that we have talked about what causes teeth fall apart, as teeth fall apart and the crystalline structure of the tooth gets a spot where it starts to break down, and typically it's between the teeth under the contact, which is the only thing that floss will clean. Like floss is all that will work. And by cleaning that off, you don't get that hot spot where bacteria are just excreting acid and it breaks down into the inner tooth layer. So fluoride, if it's in your mouth with your toothpaste, as the chemical is floating around in your saliva, you have these ions, fluoride ions, and they are floating around in the saliva, which is also full of phosphate ions and calcium ions from your salivary glands. And so when that reconstitutes that crystalline structure, because it has like a memory, the crystals do, and as the tooth structure kind of reconstitutes, it will pull those fluoride ions into the lattice work. And so instead of just being hydroxyapatite, well, now it's like cross-linked with fluoride, which makes it way stronger. So when it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like rebuilding a motor with like stronger parts. You know, like it's beefed up and it's going to have a harder time breaking down in the future because it just makes things so much stronger. Where the things kind of start to get into the weeds with fluoride is that in high doses, when you ingest it, fluoride is an endocrine disruptor, so it can mess with your hormones. That's about the extent of my knowledge that I'm willing to like, because I'm not a professional on like what fluoride does in your body, but it is an endocrine disruptor.
But like at high doses.
At high doses,
it's kind of like the same thing where people like don't drink aspartame, but it's like a Diet Coke's not going to kill you.
Diet Coke's
versus like 24 is
not good.
Right.
Yeah. So typically, like when we were in school, we had to go on a field trip where we saw how city water was fluoridated, where they put fluoride into the water, and it's in like parts per million that are safe for human consumption. Safe for human conduct. And so I'm not really sure. I know that there are studies out there that link fluoride in city water to decreased caries risk, because caries is actually the dental term for cavities. Cavities like the lay term, but caries risk goes down when fluoride's in the water, just because you're exposing your teeth. But how many people do you know that really drink like tap water often? I really don't know many. I will drink out of the sink, like without a cup. Like I'll just put my mouth under the under the sink. My wife drinks water out of the fridge with the filter.
Yeah. Will a filter?
It depends on what kind of filter you have. Okay. If you have like a reverse osmosis and stuff like that, that will pull that stuff out and clean the water.
What do they put the fluoride in the water for then? The city
cavity
water.
risk.
The city does that for your cavities?
Yeah.
It's not like for, I thought maybe like stagnant water or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually literally just for dental health.
Really?
Yeah.
It's weird that they would care. I don't know.
I think because in the past, depending on where you were located, the public health crisis of rampant decay as our diet in the United States has changed to hyper processed foods, and carbohydrates and sugar, the cavity risk went through the roof. And when you're in an underserved location and people don't have, because you can get into the weeds about dentistry versus medical, but like dental insurance doesn't work like medical insurance does. And so if you don't have the money to put into your mouth, and then your teeth are just falling apart because what food is available to you is bad for your teeth, but the water that you're drinking, if there's a way to combat how much decay is in the public's mouth, then that's kind of why they did that.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wonder when that started.
Like how long ago? Letting down my instructors and my ability to tell you that, because I actually don't know when that happened.
Oh no, I'm just curious. I'm not like asking you, but I'm just curious, like when they decided like that was an epidemic. They're like, let's start putting fluoride in the water. You know, I'm sure it had to be decades ago.
Yeah, several decades ago would be my guess. I would go out on a limb and guess probably like the 60s or 70s, maybe 80s.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So the kicker is that when you have patients that come into the office that are very outspoken about like, I don't want fluoride on my teeth. I don't want fluoride on my kids' teeth. And I'm like, my job is just to tell you that fluoride is going to help your teeth. Like, I'm not here to comment on what else happens with it. Mm-hmm. But people want to do fluoride free without making the necessary lifestyle changes that are going to help keep their cavities low. If someone brings their kids in to my office and the kids have cavities in every single tooth and need to be referred to a pediatric doc to be sedated because there's so much work to do, and the mom's drinking Dr. Pepper and smoke cigarettes and her mouth's dry, and she's drinking soda all the time. The kids are drinking soda and all they eat is processed food. You might not want to think about A, lifestyle choices, and then B, how good of an idea is it for topical applications of fluoride every once in a while to go on your teeth. Probably is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, she's worried about the wrong root cause of the issues rather than.
Yeah, like why is it coming back on us? Like, and it honestly, like there's I actually loved your videos about healthy foods and like how you can still source healthy foods for a decent amount of money, but there is a sad reality that a lot of food that's accessible to a lot of people is unhealthy and cheap.
Yeah. And
so, if you live in a food desert in the inner city and all you have is a discount gas station, that's where you buy your food. That's not going to end up in a good situation.
Yeah. So at that point, those kind of people that don't have those kind of options, that's just where dental care and putting the topographical, or not topographical, but steps. Yeah,
topical application. Yeah, and so,
yeah,
that's where you see, especially where there's big cities where there's dental schools, dental students go out and outreach programs do, we would go out to schools, talk to students, teach them how to brush their teeth. We'd go to the classrooms and hand out toothbrushes and stuff. And then we do these sealant clinics where, from a public health perspective, like these kids need to have a screening at school and they need to have sealants placed because sealants help block the deep grooves from catching food. And so, I wish there could be more of that, but it's, it's like with one little dip into the rabbit hole, like it opens up like a freaking anthill of like topics for how to combat that. And I know a lot of people that just use, and honestly I should do more research on this, but using toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in it, but actually that has hydroxyapatite, which is what the teeth are made out of. And so I should actually do some more research into that and see, like, is hydroxyapatite toothpaste help reconstitute those teeth at least as strong as they were before, or is it stronger because you have such a increased concentration?
yeah. I remember like these old timers, they would just brush their teeth with hydrogen peroxide, like just straight hydrogen peroxide. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of that, but I heard people brushing their teeth with like baking soda.
Or maybe it's baking soda.
Baking soda.
Yeah, baking soda. Sorry, yeah.
Baking soda is super abrasive. So I have patients that are like, "Well, I use Arm & Hammer toothpaste." And I'm like, dude, that's like it's full of silica, like grit, and so you actually can wear down your teeth depending on how aggressive you are, what kind of toothbrush you're using. So yeah, I would just say consult with your dentist on like what they think is best.
Yeah.
Like as far as like best for you. There's products out there that are for gum health and then tooth health. And in all reality, I think a lot of the branding behind toothpaste kind of is a lot of smoke and mirrors, when all reality is like people just need to brush and floss. And it's like broken record cycle for dentists. But if most people did everything that we told them, we wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
Actually.
Is there an actual way to whiten your teeth?
Yeah. Most of it involves like a hydrogen peroxide gel that helps eliminate stains out of the enamel. And so whether you do that professionally at a dentist office, which is going to like really whiten your teeth, we put like a little barrier guard along the gums and then paint that gel onto your teeth. And you have to keep the lips and the tissue away from it because it's so strong it'll actually burn you and blister the soft tissue. But then there's other companies, remember like when the Crest white strips came out.
Yeah.
Basically, you can buy like a higher grade of that from a dentist office. They're like take home trays. It kind of bridges the gap between spending money at Walmart on the whitening strips and get one that actually like is going to help a lot. But I always tell patients when they're wanting to do that, you need to take a picture of what your teeth look like before, because if you're whitening them every 2 days and they're getting whiter, you're not going to notice. So you need to be able to like reference your pictures side by side.
Oh, yeah. It's not
You'll just be like chasing the white that you want, and they just get whiter and whiter and whiter until they're like whiter than the whites of your eyes, and that's how you know that like either patients have veneers or they've like overly whitened their teeth.
Yeah.
Because there's a realm of like what's considered aesthetic in teeth.
Right.
And when people blast past that, and they're doing veneers that are in like a bleach white shade, I mean, that's more power to them. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I think that natural aesthetics and maybe a little bit brighter than natural like pops really, really nicely when you see people smile when you put their teeth back together.
What is it that actually stains your teeth?
Coffee, tea, red wine, cigarette smoke.
Is it the smoke or is it the drying your mouth out that does it? It's actually smoke.
Yeah. Well, the smoke, the particulate in the smoke sticks to the plaque on your teeth. And when plaque doesn't get taken off, those stains just kind of intrinsically soak into those outer layers of the hydroxyapatite crystals in the enamel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to do that if you're like a coffee drinker and stuff? You
rinse your mouth out after you drink coffee.
Just like with water?
Yep. Yeah. You don't need to brush your teeth after you drink coffee. Tea actually seems to be, my hygienist and I were talking about this. Tea seems to be the worst thing for stains. And I wonder if it's because it's a little more savory than coffee. Coffee is just a hard hitting, acidic wake up. And so I don't think people really sit with coffee in their mouth as long as they do with tea. But tea drinkers seem to have like more stain when we do cleanings on them, that you spend time cleaning it off. But yeah, I think it sticks into the plaque and the biofilm that's around your teeth, and then it just stays.
So from a different perspective, not like the staining part of it, but you're talking about like the Dr. Pepper puts you at like a 3 acid.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's like sugar free? Does that change anything at all?
I think by nature, the carbonation brings down the acidity. I might actually have to Google that. That's a good one to know. But essentially, the carbonation is acidic in nature.
Does aspartame have the same cavity like kind of production as
No.
sugar?
No.
It's not the same.
Not the same.
Artificial sweeteners won't produce like a cavity or whatever.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. A sugar-free soda as acidic. Let's see. Most sugar-free sodas are just as acidic as regular. Phosphoric acid, common in colas, citric acid in citrus, and then the carbonic acid from the carbonation. So the pH is still really low just from the carbonation side of it. And
okay.
Yeah.
What about alcohol versus non-alcohol mouthwash? What's that whole debate? Because I've heard some people say like you shouldn't have that much alcohol in your mouth for like a mouthwash.
Yeah, so the alcohol actually helps kill bacteria. So if mouthwash isn't really a topic that comes up a ton in the dental office, at least in my office. But mouthwash kind of just helps as like a final rinse to like what you floss first and then you brush, and then if you want to rinse with mouthwash. A lot of times mouthwash is used for fluoride. So if I have a bunch of kids with a lot of cavities, I'll tell them like, hey, we really don't want to have to. The earlier you cut into an adult tooth with a burr to do a filling, you start what I kind of call the life cycle of the molar. You get the first filling, and then depending on how well it's taken care of, it will fail at 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. If somebody turns a new leaf and brushes and cleans everything like a maniac, they could last 20 years. But I would like to, if there's something that's reversible in a child, especially, I would rather them like brush good and then maybe rinse with like an Act mouthwash that has fluoride in it. And you're not drinking it, but I tell patients like you just spit it out and leave it on your teeth. Like don't rinse it off. That way you get that concentrated effect of the fluoride in there. But the alcohol in the mouthwash is mostly like an antiseptic to help kill bacteria.
It's like gingivitis too, right? Is that the...
Yeah. Most of the time gingivitis comes from an acute inflammatory reaction to plaque and bacteria that are stuck to your teeth. And so if somebody, you go a while and you've got like that thick, like clingy rope of nasty, soft material along your gum line, your body's immune reaction to that is what causes that bright red bleeding gingivitis, which it's just an inflammatory reaction where you don't have any bone loss associated with it. So gingivitis is gum disease localized to the gums only. If you let it go on long enough, you can end up with periodontitis, where the gingivitis actually causes your body's immune system to pull that bone away from the teeth, because your immune system is smart enough to know that it doesn't want bacteria in the bone. And so it's kind of like a self worsening problem, though, because as the bone loss continues, the gum tissue stays high on the tooth and you get deeper and deeper pockets for plaque and bacteria to build up in, which keeps the bone going further and further away from the tooth. And so periodontitis is the number one leading cause of tooth loss in the United States. I've had patients, like they come in and they want veneers, and then they bite down and all of their teeth just kind of like flex outward because there's no bone holding them in. I'm like, we got to go do a lot more than veneers here, dude, because the teeth are not going to stay. Like they're not going to stay.
Dang.
So
that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So we'll switch it up a little bit, still in like the dentist realm, but I know we've talked a lot about how you said like dentists are just hated. Like how's that play on you? Like as a dentist, like when people come in and they're like, well, I don't really want to be here, but I'm here or whatever. Like mentally, how does that, you probably get it enough. Like
10 times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reminded constantly of how much people hate me. Which is kind of crazy, because I think everybody thinks that they're the one that hates the dentist, but like you probably hate it less than the person that was just here and the person coming in after you. It's a vulnerable position to be worked on, to have to lean back, mouth open. It's uncomfortable. You have to go through an injection to get things numb so that I can provide good work. Because if you're moving around and I'm trying to provide you with a good service and your movement is keeping me from being able to do my job, like that's why we anesthetize people. Random side note though, nobody that was born, well, we basically stopped using Novocaine in 1967, I think is when they stopped using it. So Novocaine's not used anymore because too many people were allergic to it.
So Blake Shelton's lying, dude, when he says
Novocaine.
numbed him with Novocaine.
Yeah.
Liar.
Yeah, liar. And it honestly, like it's stuck around. People just say it, but we use lidocaine often, Septocaine, Articaine. Like they're all different anesthetics, but less antibiotic or less reactive to it. Where were we going with this? Oh, how people view dentists. Yeah. I think it totally depends on the person. But I think a lot of people as children go through a traumatic dental experience because it's terrifying. Like if you're 5 years old and you need to have a filling done, however that dentist, however good of a job that provider did at setting expectations and helping that child navigate a pretty traumatic response is going to like write it into your freaking DNA as you go forward in life. If I've got, I could have a 50-year-old man who's like ready to cry sitting down in the dental chair because it just evokes this like deep seated terror response that has been there for 40 years, 50 years. I think it just comes from, from traumatic experiences, and it may not even be traumatic to an adult, but to a kid it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that dentistry, because most of the time that we work on patients, they're awake. And so depending on your personality and how well you are at helping people be at ease is going to dictate how well you push on and carry the stress of that. I don't do well when I'm getting feedback that sounds negative. Even so I'm checking with people like, are you okay? Like, why are you making this noise? Are you feeling this? Is this hurting you? Are you uncomfortable? Because if I'm sitting here trying to do my job and somebody's like groaning, I'm going to ask you what's wrong. 'Cause I don't want people in pain.
Yeah.
And I like to joke with people and say like, hey, contrary to popular belief, there's no dentist out there that wakes up in the morning and goes, I can't wait to hurt somebody today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the dentistry is a very repetitive field. We do the same 40 maybe procedures, top 40 procedures out of our code book of things that are done. We do them all the time. It's very technique sensitive. It's hard on your body. We're constantly bent over at the waist, trying not to lean too far for your neck. So we're all using, microscopic loops to see with magnification. Now I've switched over to something that's ergonomic, so I can sit looking straight up. Looks like I'm looking out the window, but the telescopes are pointing down into the mouth, and so I can sit up straight. Now my neck doesn't hurt anymore, which just takes like a huge mental load off because you're trying to get some work done, and then like you just feel your entire like back of your head and neck and shoulder starts tingling, and you're minutes away from a day-ending spasm.
Yeah, that's things that people don't think about.
Yeah.
It's like tattoo artists. I was talking to a tattoo artist the other day, and he's like,
dude, that's
my
hard.
back is just wrecked over the years. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't think of that. Those things. Yeah, you're in the same position all day long, and you're doing very detailed work.
Yeah.
So you can't move. It's like, and like you said, you want to be done in a efficient amount of time. So it's you're trying just to get it all done. Gosh.
Yeah, if you meet like an old dentist, like look at their back and neck, they'll be walking around like just all stooped over and stove up, dude. And it's like, did you ride Saddle Bronx, or were you for a living, or were you a dentist?
Or you were a dentist.
Yeah.
You were either a hard rodeo guy or you were a dentist.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, I think that the negativity that surrounds the field can weigh pretty heavily on you. And, traditionally, like, dentists have had a super high level of suicide for their field.
That's what I've heard. I was surprised when I heard that.
Yeah, we were actually passed by medical doctors and construction supervisors recently.
Yeah, it's like the top 3 or 5 in like behind like military and law enforcement and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I think traditionally, and I think dentistry's come down off of the pedestal that it was on for that, because it's extremely isolating. You're the one person in your practice that is making all of these healthcare decisions. You're the only provider role other than the hygienist, which that's where, like with me and my hygienist, like he and I get along so well. We talk about, the disease control processes that both of us are trying to control. And he calls himself the gum gardener. And so that for me, like he takes a huge weight off of my shoulders. From a provider side of it, like it can be isolating. But now that so many people are in group practices, or they have somebody else, another doctor that they work with. My brother's a dentist, my partners are here in Boise, and we've got, they've been in it a lot longer than I have. If I've got questions, they're an open door. Like I can call them anytime I need, and they'll get back to me, and we can brainstorm things. But yeah, if I was working alone, it would be super stressful. And yeah, there's an isolating factor to it. And then I'm sure there's guys that, looked up at 20 years and they're like, I've been doing nothing but fillings for 5 days a week for 20 years.
Yeah.
The repetitive nature of it, and working with people in pain. Like if you get really bad sympathy pains, like dentistry is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because everybody, half the people in the day are coming in with a problem that has to be fixed, and you've got to be able to like kind of compartmentalize certain things. And they're a patient to you. They're a human being that's in pain. They're seeking help. And then you're trying to like help them navigate mentally what's happening, as well as to come up with a plan that's going to help them get where they want to go.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. So what do you do to just keep your spirits up then? You just make sure to...
Dude, I listen to whatever music I want to in my operatories. I had a patient one time that was like, why are we listening to this? And I don't like this. And I was like, it's not for you, dude. Yeah. It's for me. My assistant's like, oh my God, dude, how many more freaking Morgan Wallen songs can we listen to in this office today? And I'm like, dude, I've always been I love music. I've always been my parents had a band when we were kids, and so music like really chills me out. So I just listen to what I want to, as long as it's not like, I'm a big metalhead, but the metal doesn't make it into the office. So it pretty much just stays like whatever country I want to listen to that day. Yeah. So music, fitness, the fitness side of things has kind of become more of like a necessary thing than something that I like really enjoy. I like being active. But when you're freaking toast at the end of a week, you're like, I don't want to I'm going to work out as soon as I get home from work, or am I going to do it at 4 a.m. before I go in and see these patients all day? And, but yeah, I noticed like when I started running more, like that was really therapeutic to like just get my heart rate up in the morning, do some cardio, and then work out in the afternoon after work. The baby has not helped the fitness side of it. So
yeah, congratulations on being a new dad.
She's 11 weeks old.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's that been?
It's been an adventure. We had a kind of an unfortunate string of events in the hospital. We were there for 4 days. My wife's a freaking trooper. She pushed through a lot of crappy things that she had to deal with the delivery. And we just did it together. Part of being a business owner with the dental side of things, and then being in the hospital with my wife, like we're not getting paid because I'm not working. So I took off those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. She worked the day that she went into labor at the hospital. So she's a freaking animal, dude. She's a lot tougher than I am. But yeah, that was a big adventure overall. 4 days in the hospital, and then spent the fifth night Saturday night in the ER. Had one night at home, and then I was back at work on Monday morning. I'm so thankful my wife's parents, my in-laws, were here to help her with the baby, and just to navigate kind of a less than fortunate turn of events after the baby got here, on my wife's side of things. But we pushed through it, and it was awesome to kind of get to where we are now, where, she's smiling at us when we wake her up, and it's like, oh wow, you're not just a little newborn screaming blob that screams nonstop 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
That was going back to work after the baby was born was like, it was a mental game. I was so tired after the 5 days at the 4 days in the hospital, and the fifth night with in and out of the hospital or the ER. I keep track of my heart rate a lot when I'm working. And when I'm doing dentistry, more or less, like it's fairly therapeutic. Like managing the patients, managing the office is like the stressful side of things. But when I can just sit and like do my job, I see my heart rate come down. And the last summer when I was running a lot, it'd be like at 55, 58 beats a minute. And it took me like an hour and a half for these 3 fillings. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to die. This is on Monday morning. And I looked down and my resting heart rate is 110.
Jeez.
And I was like, this
Like
sucks.
level 2.
This
Yeah.
sucks.
Gosh.
But yeah, we pushed through it. And my wife's a legend. She's going to be off work through March 23rd and then back to nurse practitioner life. And baby's going to stay with a nanny 2 days a week. My sister-in-law is going to help out too. And she's going to get to play with her cousins a couple days a week. And it's going to be good.
How's everything changed in your life now being a dad, like your priorities and everything?
Yeah, we didn't go into parenthood by any means with like rose-colored glasses. We're the last of our friend group to have kids. My 2 younger siblings already have kids. So I knew it was gonna be tough, but like the severity of the sleep deprivation for those first 3 to 4 weeks was heinous. And I would definitely say I have like a lot more respect than I ever thought that I would for people that end up going through that a lot longer than we did. We've been like unbelievably fortunate. I don't even like telling people that she sleeps 8 to 10 hours a night right now because it's like, it's not even fair. Like people don't want to know that there are babies out there that sleep. Yeah. I'm sure when she hits her 4 month, her sleep regression will happen and then we'll be up all night again. So, but yeah, you have to be so much more purposeful with your time. Like there's really no more just jacking around and not doing something. Like if you want to have downtime, well then you've got to have things lined up so that when she lays down for a nap, like you and your wife can do whatever it is that you want to do together. If you want to read, if you want to watch a show, like you got
that time sparingly.
You got to be ready and you've got to be able to she hops on the Peloton the second that she goes to bed. And I put her down this morning and then went and ran and worked out for a little bit. It was none. It's better than nothing, but it's far from the workouts that I used to do.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, purposeful with your time, and purposeful with your communication goes a lot further than I ever thought it would.
So as a parent now, what are you going to do for your kid to make sure that they're not afraid of the dentist?
Actually, we may have already traumatized her pretty bad. She, in the attempt at the nursing and breastfeeding, we found out with a lactation consultant that her tongue frenum attachment was way too big and her upper lip attachment was way too big. And so she couldn't latch to eat, whether it be on the bottle or breastfeeding. And so she would click and there was air getting in and then she'd get gassy and scream. And so had to go to a dentist here in town that has a CO2 laser, which is the best thing for soft tissue augmentation because it doesn't really hurt when they're that young. They don't really have any like real nervous supply to those things. And so he clipped her tongue and clipped her lip. And then you can see as you're bottle feeding her that her lips and tongue like are working how they're supposed to. So we have to do all these freaking stretches on her cheek and her lips all the time.
Wow.
My wife pushed for 3 hours to get her out and was in labor for 26. And so she came out really like tight on this side and loves to turn her head to the left. And so it's like a constant battle of exercise and stretching and being purposeful with our time with her to like help her to eat well, function well. Oral function is something like that I've been learning a lot about with her and with the lactation consultant that my wife used, who's stellar. They're called Wild Milk here in Boise. So if anybody needs lactation consultant help, like they are the people to talk to. Maureen and Kristen are absolutely stellar. But they know their stuff and have helped us a lot. And now it's kind of translated into my line of work where there are certain patients that like really struggle and feel like they're being waterboarded when you're doing dental work on them because they're leaned back and their mouth's open and they don't know what to do with their tongue. And so I started looking at people's tongues and started seeing that these patients that don't know when they open their mouth, most people's tongue drops to the back of their mouth, blocks their mouth from swallowing water. and they just sit there and choke. They're like, I can't breathe. Like I feel like I'm going to die here. And I'm like, we got to figure out like a way to like train you to let me work on you. But so many of these patients have these large tongue ties underneath on their frenum attachments for their tongue. And they never learned to put their tongue to the roof of their mouth at rest. So there's a lot of tongue function. Like people lean back and I see their tongue shaking, like it's already in muscle failure. And I'm like, this is wild. Like what a world of that's kind of like been opened to me from learning about like oral function, especially starting from when we're babies. Are we learning to like, are we just eating off of a bottle? What kind of pacifier are they using? Like, are we training them for their mouths to work as adults in addition to the fact that they need to have nutrition?
Yeah.
So,
and then thumb suckers, they start training their mouth to form differently, right?
They can, yeah. You put a lot more pressure on the roof of the palate than people think, and it's a hard habit to break because most of the time babies have been sucking their thumb in utero, and so they may be like 10 weeks old, but they've been sucking their thumb for 10 months already when they come out, or by that time, probably like 13, 14 weeks in utero, they can put their thumb in their mouth.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge habit that really, quite frankly, should be broken. And I've learned some things from this realm already that I guess nowadays they're wanting kids done with pacifiers by like 4 months. It used to be a year, but that addiction to that pressure in their mouth, and then they take it out and then they put their thumb. The thumb is worse because then they can put so much pressure on the roof of their mouth that, I'll see an adult that had braces and they're 40 years old and I can see that their palate is shaped funny. And I'm like, do you suck your thumb? And yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, well, I can literally see like that skeletal structure has changed. It never went back.
Good luck calling or using an elk call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was my first thing.
No diaphragms for you, dude.
Yeah, you are not going to be archery hunting by yourself.
No. The hoochie mama only goes so far.
Yeah. Good luck at full draw using the hoochie mama.
Yeah.
That's funny. So you said it's kind of like a sales game too with dentistry. How do you set your practice apart from so many others in the area?
I think, how do we set ourselves apart?
Well, not like you could take that like for you guys, but like, is that just kind of I seen you guys started to do like TikToks and stuff now to like.
Oh yeah, dude. My office manager, Celeste, is a little social media whiz. She does awesome videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's cool because then people start to realize that you're more than just a dentist and you guys have personality and because I think personality is everything if you're trying to separate yourself from somebody else.
For sure.
Yeah,
personality is everything, and I think that letting that shine and when I go in and meet patients for the first time, I'm never going to that dentist chair. I go to the corner and I sit down and I hang out and talk to people. And some people like that. And I'd say the majority of people like that. There are patients that are just like, I don't care to be here. I don't care to meet you. I just want to know that things are okay so I can leave. I'm like, okay, well, we can do that. That's fine. But the vast majority of patients, they want to know.
Like an icebreaker.
Yeah. I feel like within 3 questions that I ask a patient, I can find some sort of common ground to converse about with them. And that's how I do it. There are other ways that people do it. I really struggled when I was with the group, the Pacific office. They sent us to this training at their main headquarters in Irvine, California. And they have these scripts they want you to like practice. And I freaking sucked so bad at trying to do their script. I honestly just gave up because I was like, I'm not going to do this. Like I can't be scripted. I'm just too chill, go with the flow. I feel like there's probably a lot of the only time I'm type A really in this world is about the dental work that I do. Because I don't want anybody to walk out of my office with work that I wouldn't be okay with being in my wife's teeth or my mom's, because I want my work to speak for itself, and then B, from a business side, like you don't want to ever do anything that's sloppy because then you have to redo it. Like from an ethical perspective, it has to be fixed. And now you're doing it for free and you're taking up that time that you could have been, providing money for the office. Working as a solo provider is definitely weird. And my wife and I took a vacation. The first time we've been to I've been to overseas. We went to England, Scotland, and Ireland. We were there for 2 weeks, and I like hamstrung my office for 3 months because of how much money we cut out of the practice by not working. because people can take, they can take leave, and because you have to, like, well, if I'm not working, you're not getting paid. Well, you're going to be taking out leave and stuff like that. So
Yeah, because you can't even do cleanings or anything then, can you?
that depends on the state. And certain states allow hygiene to perform scaling and root planing services and like periodontal maintenance cleanings without the presence of the provider. There's a difference between like general supervision and direct supervision, and so you have to follow your state guidelines.
Yeah,
for that.
Cool, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're obviously a dentist and you're got some cool stuff. But I mean, outside of that, you've been slaying some elk with your bow. So I mean, you're not just a dentist. Like you got some cool stuff to you too.
Yeah, I really, to be honest, like I don't really feel like being a dentist is really even in like the top 5 things about me that like really are who I am. For me, like my profession is a means to an end, and I happen to be good at my profession, thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pay off student loans and live my life and raise my kid and take my wife out to dinner and and go hunt in September,
Yeah. So how's hunting out in Idaho been compared to like back in New Mexico?
The areas that I've gone are so much thicker. The brush is so thick and everything is so steep. It's what I mean, when you throw on Onyx, you put that angle filter on, you're like, that is red. I'm not going up there.
You got all your lines just stacked so close together. You're like
just looking up, like I'm supposed to get up that? That's not happening.
Yeah.
I think I'm still learning up here, but I mean, I've been very fortunate with the time that I have spent. This last season, I was a bow hiker for 8 days. But I really want to try to do some more research into the controlled units and make sure I'm applying for those and get out there where I'm not getting I almost got ran over by a guy on a 4-wheeler. I had hiked in early because I knew there was a bull in this draw this last year. And I was standing in the middle of one of those little Forest Service trails. And I'd hiked in under my red light, finally got decently close, turned off the light. And there was a bull up above and then one further ahead down in the next gully, and they were calling to each other. And then, as is pretty common, I think, for these public land hunts, then the freaking motocross race starts because everybody slept in. And I've been out there for a freaking hour in the dark, standing in the dark, waiting, listening to these 2 bulls. And then, then you hear 87 different freaking 4-wheelers and side-by-sides kick on, and everybody's just driving to the spot that they think that they're going to get lucky. And, you've been in there on 2 bulls for an hour, and I almost got ran over. Jeez. This guy was just hauling to wherever he thought he needed to go. Can't see the forest for the trees,
Gosh.
So
that's so frustrating.
Yeah. New Mexico hunting, it's a purely lottery system. So if you don't draw.
Even for residents?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you don't draw, you're not going.
Damn. No over the counter, even like certain units or anything?
Certain animals you can hunt over the counter. I think you can over the counter Barbary sheep. And I think you can hunt, there might be some bear tags here and there.
Really? That's crazy.
Don't quote me on that. I don't actually know. I've never bear hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah. But elk and deer is all draw.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they got good animals, I guess.
They got a lot of good animals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate because the lottery system sucks, but then they usually do have pretty good animals. But like for the people that are trying to hunt in that state, it's like, well, you're not hunting this year, even if you're a resident.
Yeah. Even
there's some spots in Utah like that. You have to draw for everything. I'm pretty sure there might be a couple over the county units, but like my dad's been hunting this one spot in Utah for years, and he'd put in for just a general tag, and they said, nope, you didn't get it. It's just a general tag.
Yeah.
But there's still even limited to that. Like, gosh, that's crazy.
I think it's probably a good idea the way they've done it up here to change the out-of-state to a lottery, because everybody just waiting and spending 12 hours on a computer waiting for your spot to try to buy a tag in Idaho.
And it's such a terrible system. They give you a random number. It's not even like
if not even first come first serve.
Yeah, no. Yeah. You could just like log on right as you can and like you're number 4,000. Good luck.
Yeah.
And then you're just sitting there all day, and then it's your turn finally, but the unit that you want to hunt is already taken, so then you got to go. Okay, I guess I'm gonna figure out unit 15 or whatever.
2 of my friends from Albuquerque, they're 2 of like the most hunting machines that I've ever encountered in my life. They wanted to come up here and give it a shot, and they waited, got a tag for 46, which is south of Glenn's Ferry, and I had the resident tag, so I could go, anywhere there's an open season, I could go. But they freaking drove up here, brought the tent, brought the side by side, and we looked for deer for 5 days.
Really?
Nothing.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's hurts.
We saw a forky and 2 does the first morning that had come off of some ag up into the sagebrush. And then after that, we spent 5 days glassing.
Was that rifle hunt?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, in October. It was fun to hang out, but like it sucked for them to like invest so much to come up here, like drive, like trailer all that stuff up from New Mexico to go. And then we just got like just totally skunked other than the experience of hanging out.
So that was over the counter for you, though?
Yeah.
You could just go in there and hunt?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Dang, dude. What are you going to hunt for this year? You going to try and put in for anything?
I'm going to put in for elk and deer. And then if it doesn't happen, I'll probably go back to an over-the-counter spot.
You ever put in for antelope?
I haven't. I should.
I think I'm going to try it this year, too.
Part of me wants to put in for moose, because like you have the opportunity. I mean, I've shot 2 bulls in 2 years back to back on public land.
What a flex, dude.
That's insane.
yeah.
That doesn't even make sense.
With a bow.
Yeah. And then so 2 out of 3 years arrowed something.
Yeah.
But to have the opportunity to put in for moose and still be able to over the counter elk is kind of a itch in the back of my mind.
Yeah, especially if you already know the area that you can go over the counter, you might as well
just pray. And then as soon as you draw it, then you can go back to putting in for elk.
Yeah, especially to put in while you're young too for a moose. Like you don't want to draw that when you're 50 or 60. That's a big freaking animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you can get some.
Yeah, I should put in for antelope. I've got an old 270 rifle that needs some love. But I don't know. Everybody's moving to these sick carbon fiber wrapped like 7 PRC rifles and stuff, and I'm like, dude, my wife would probably kill me, dude. I've already got a bow set up.
Yeah.
I don't need to go balls to the wall with a hunting rifle.
Expensive hobbies already.
It's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. My thing was like, someone told me when you get a gun, make sure that you can always get the ammo for it. Because if you get like one of these crazy like 300 Winchester short mag or something like that, where it's like hard to find a round.
It's hard to find 7mm Magnum at this point because everybody's making 7 PRC.
Yeah. I'm just a 300 Win Mag guy, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had the 6.5 Creedmoor and had a terrible experience with that. So I was like, no. When you have to put in a bunch of rounds on a deer and it was on a guided hunt, I'm like.
Was it like a 143 grain or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, exactly, yeah. But
everything I've ever killed.
I didn't realize how much they drop. And then I looked at the box and it was like an inch at 100 to 200, like 5 inches from 200 to 300, and then like 13-inch drop from 200 to 300. So I shot when I was shooting center chest on, because it was like a frontal, but I was like, whatever, I could definitely make this. It was like 300 yards. Because I'd just been shooting my 300 Win Mag before that, which is like
point
no
and shoot.
drop. Yeah. And I didn't realize, which that's on me. I should have gone out and like realized how much of a drop there was, but then just like hit way low and hit the front leg. So it's like just running way, carrying the leg, and I'm like, this is a guided hunt, like down in the Paunsaugunt in like southern Utah, and I'm like, this is just freaking embarrassing.
Oh God.
I'm blaming the gun, but it was on me too. But it's like, and then the guide looks over me, he's like, that's why they call it a 6.5 need more. I'm like, yeah, you're right, dude.
Everything I've ever shot was with the 270 with a 150 grain bullet. And then I went to bow. I actually haven't rifle hunted in a long time.
Yeah, dude. I that's on my bucket list, to kill an elk with my bow, like over the counter. I've killed one in Utah, but that was on a guided hunt. I mean, it was over the counter on public land, but still, I want to be able to like DIY everything. It's just hard.
Maybe we should just make it happen this year then.
Let's do it, dude. I know some spots. I know you got some spots too, so we'll have to figure it out. But
yeah,
cool, dude. Well, let's get your place a plug, and then people could come see you, and
cool.
And you can get in their mouth.
Well, my practice is in Caldwell, Idaho. It's called Caldwell Dentistry Co. I'm one of the owners. I'm the only doctor there. It's a nice little, kind of like a boutique styled practice. There's only 3 chairs. Got 1 hygienist, 2 awesome assistants, and a office manager that just takes care of everybody and kind of runs the show. And yeah, I've been there about 2 years now, so going on 3. It's pretty great. Caldwell Dentistry Co. Right by West Valley Medical Center.
Yeah, right across the street from the golf course.
And the golf course.
Yeah.
Dude, I actually saw a golf ball land in the parking lot over that freaking fence in front. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's why I started parking back behind all the other cars, dude. Yeah. I'm going to park behind the building from now on.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. I can see all the clips and stuff on Instagram, so I'm freaking stoked to come on and chat.
Well, it's a wild world. I mean, like, dentistry seems like it's just so cut and dry and boring, but like when you really start digging into it, like it's a doctor and like all the cadaver thing. Like the cadaver thing was crazy to me. So like I would have never thought that. That's crazy. But yeah, we'll have to get on again, and maybe we'll do like a hunting podcast, just hunting stuff, because there's a lot of stuff we could talk about there.
For sure.
But cool, dude.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it.